Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of France Building Services. France is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from 1.5 million to more than 20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC and this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you. Hey, building service contractors, it's Jordan here with the Elite BSC podcast. Hey, before we get going today, I know I try not to ask for this too often, but it would be really helpful and much appreciated if you could like and subscribe to the podcast, but also to leave me a review. Reviews are super helpful, and if you think this content is valuable, my one ask of you is to leave us a review, and I'd greatly appreciate it. So today, I want to talk about something that has come up in recent meetings at our company here at France Building Services. Our leadership team gets together once a month, and we talk about various happenings in the organization. We look at financial results. We look at we go around and talk about the different silos in the organization. We give our key ops leaders chances to present and talk about what's going on at their regions, that sort of thing. And we recently had our meeting where we look back on the previous year and celebrate wins and successes, talk about things that didn't go well and maybe some failures that we had and why we had those, how we're going to remedy that going forward. But one of the things that we covered this time, and something we periodically look at, is zooming out the lens a bit and looking at the company as a whole. How do we execute well on our strategy, or maybe another way to say it is how do we execute well on the plan that we have for being a great organization? How do we make sure we follow through on that? We all have dreams and visions of what the company could look like, where we would like to get to. Some of us have made those fairly explicit on paper. Some of those they're still packaged in our head, not yet gotten out on paper yet. But we have an idea of where we want to get to, and the question is do you have a plan to actually get there? And what does that look like? And so there's tons of resources out there that sort of hit on this particular topic. And so, but what we talked about in our meeting, and we've kind of stolen this and pieced this together from other sources, is 7, we'll say, practices that are important to us that we think are going to help us get where we want to go. And I'm just going to walk through each of these 7, and I think all of them, in some senses, are important. And you'll notice in some of the language, you're gonna hear echoes of Jim Collins' Good to Great. You're going to hear echoes of traction, which is I know is very popular among a lot of small business owners. And so the first one, so we'll call this the first practice, I think that's important, is, and this is a throwback to Good to Great, is that the mission, vision, and values of the organization are intact and communicated well. So we would say clearly articulated core principles give our strategic plan credibility and context, meaning they give us the why behind what we're doing, and they give us a sense of purpose and direction, the why we do what we do, and the who we are, maybe the soul of the organization. And when I first started talking about this at our organization, and as it became more of a bigger deal for us, it felt repetitive. It felt like, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about this? And it felt a little, I don't know if fake is the right word, because I certainly meant it, and I know other people on our team, as we began discussing this, did. However, it just felt like maybe a distraction from all the fires and the urgent things that we had to get done. But what I have learned over time is seeing our team, us press into this and it become central to what we do, is it really has shaped who we are. And it's hard to see that in the first year or 2 years, but looking back 10 years or 15 years, it's certainly easier to see. And it has shaped who we hire and who remains on our team and our practices and how we go about doing what we do. And so having that mission, vision, values is important, and I think it helps shape or the organization or maybe lay the groundwork that you can then build off of. So knowing what that is and then clearly articulating it and doing it regularly, I think is important. So that would be best practice number 1. Number 2 is having a 3 to 5 year strategic plan or a 3 to 5 year goal. And so this is, the whole BHAG concept is cool, I guess. This is, I think, more realistic for small business owners. And for us, what this means is we're going to have the leadership team at our company is going to have a clearly articulated vision for the next 3 to 5 years. Like that's sort of the time frame. Because we feel like we can look out there, and we can look out 10, 15 years or whatever, but 3 to 5 is something that our team can sort of get their hands around. And it seems doable. And so we'd love for this to have an inspirational tone, and there's some motivational goals that go along the way. But this is hey, here, as a company, here's where we'd like to get to in the next 3 to 5 years. And so I think that's important. You've laid the groundwork with the mission and vision, and then you have this plan of here's where we'd love to get to in the not too distant future. All right. Now, that's best practice number 2. And we sort of get this. This is sort of true in personal lives as well. And let's say number 2 is the strategic plan, the 3 to 5 year plan is like, hey, I want to get in shape. I'd like to be able to run a marathon or lose 50 pounds or, whatever. And that's one thing, and that's good, and we need that. But we need something more than that too. So which leads to number 3, the next best practice, is annual goals or objectives. And so basically you're taking this 3 to 5 year plan, this vision that you have for where you'd like to get to. And then we want to break this down into smaller units that are more easily accomplished in a time frame that seems doable. And so a year, and you could even break these down quarterly. I mean, I think for us, we like to go in year increments, and then we look at things on a month-by-month basis to see how we're doing along the way in getting to that year. But having these particular 1-year goals are super helpful, and they should be follow the whole SMART goal process, of having they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, etc. And so that is good. I think these goals should also be, you could add an S on the end of smarts, that they would also be stretchy, that they would sort of stretch and pull you in a good direction, but not stretch you so far that they break you. So we got mission, vision, values as laying the foundation. We have a 3 to 5 year vision, and then we have annual goals or smaller goals that are going to help us get to that particular 3 to 5 year vision or goal that we have. So best practice number 4 is having key performance indicators. And you can kind of see how all this is building up one upon the other. And a key performance indicator it's a word that gets thrown around all the time. But it's basically, okay, we have these 1-year goals now that we've set, these smaller incremental goals. Now, what are things that need to happen along the way throughout the course of the year that are going to help ensure that we hit that annual goal? And these could be a lot of things. And it could also depend on, this is where you start breaking down the organization into its various components. So each region, for instance, may have different key performance indicators that they're tracking. The sales team or the HR team may have different key performance indicators that they're tracking. In fact, they will be different. But they're all aiming towards that annual and 3 to 5 year goal that we're aiming for. And so some of these should be lead measures, and example of lead measures might be customer site visits and partnership meetings might be a lead measure towards customer retention. Daily labor budgets are going to be a lead measure that might track how well your direct expenses are going to end up being at the end of a month. So that's what we mean there on lead measures. Lag measures are going to be monthly financial performance, employee turnover, number of, volume of sales that you have in a given look back period. But having these KPIs that we're measuring monthly, so when we have our monthly leadership meetings, we're looking at some of these KPIs and seeing how we're doing. And depending on how someone's doing month after month with these KPIs, will often is a really good predictor of what's going to happen by the end of the year. And then at the end of the year, we can look back and see, are we in a position, given what's happened this year, to be able to hit our 3 to 5 year target, and what adjustments do we need to make? So that's best practice number 4 is KPIs. Best practice number 5, and this is going to harken to traction and also good to great, is having the right people in the right seats. So one of the things that we need to always be doing and assessing is whether or not we have the right people on our team, and whether or not the right people are in the right seats. And so, early on, this was a more controversial question for us because there was a lot of people, quite frankly, that were not the right people. And sometimes that changes a little bit. But over time, as culture and vision and where we're going as an organization has gotten more clarity to it, it's become more clear who and who isn't a good fit on our team. And so this is something that just constantly has to be assessed. And it's not that we're, using like a Jack Welch sort of thing and we're just firing our lowest performing people every year and that's just the way that it goes here. Like that's not necessarily the case. But we do want to make sure that if we begin to see some gross misalignment, that we want to deal with that. And if it's somebody that we would not hire if we had the chance to hire them again, if we wouldn't, then maybe that answers for us what needs to be done with that particular individual. And then making sure people in the right seats. So we've had to move some people around, and that's okay. And once we get someone that we think, man, they're a great fit in many ways, maybe we need to move them around and play to their strengths, and that might be the case. So assessing that on a regular basis, I think, is certainly going to help you execute. I mean, I would be the first to say that this organization that we have would not be here today if it was not for the great people that have helped lead it, having the right people on the team in the right seats. If it was just on my shoulders, we would not be half of what we are today, because I am certainly not, I don't possess all the things needed to run an organization like what we have, and I'm filled with weaknesses, and I need those people on the team. So that's best practice number 5. Number 6 is a regular meeting cadence. So I've been talking, here about this monthly meeting that we have, but there needs to be a regular cadence, and it can be. So think about this too. We don't want to do too many meetings, because too many meetings indicates, as Peter Drucker says, an inefficient organization. So an organization that's set up correctly and is communicating well should have minimal amounts of meetings. So we don't want to, do death by meeting in our organizations, but we need to have a regular cadence of monitoring these KPIs, monitoring the right people that we have in those right seats to make sure we're hitting our goals. So at the operations level, this may mean you're meeting with your, field managers on a weekly basis. This may mean that the ops manager is meeting with branch managers once a week or once every other week or once a month, that we're looking at things. Maybe the key leadership team as a whole in the organization is meeting monthly. So here at our organization, we have our ops teams are meeting regularly, like weekly. Some of our key leadership people are meeting, like our top 3 or 4 people are meeting weekly to discuss things at a high level. We also have monthly meetings that all of our key people and key ops leaders from all over the organization come together and meet. And so this particular meeting cadence helps us stay on top of these KPIs and some of these other goals. And I think it's helpful. It's sort of like, if you're on losing weight and you step on the scales every day or once a week, it's your regular check-in to see how you're doing. And then number 7, lastly, is a scorecard. And this really, in some ways, is just an accumulation of some of this before. So taking KPIs, taking this meeting cadence and these goals, and really just assessing how we're doing and keeping track of it. So I am training for an event coming up at the end of April. And and it's called High Rocks, and it's kind of a long distance, but also event. But it also has, I guess, strength components in the middle of it. And so it's required me to train in a way that I've never trained before. I've been a distance runner before, and then I've also done a lot of weightlifting and working out and CrossFit and some stuff. And this is kind of a hybrid between those two. And so I've had to keep track of what I'm doing and kind of be methodical about, I've got to build an aerobic base. I've got to work on some strength. I've got to work on, short-term, like short speed intervals and some other things, and trying to put all the pieces together in order to be able to compete in this event and hopefully do it somewhat competitively. And so having a scorecard of where I'm at and monitoring my pace and how fast can I run 5 miles or 7 miles and what sort of pace can I keep up? Okay, now what if I integrate, lunges and burpees and other things in the midst of that running, what sort of pace? And just monitoring and seeing how I'm doing all that stuff, I think will help get me, and it helps constantly keep me dialed in to see what I need to work on, and I can assess myself on a regular basis. And that certainly is helpful. So I think these 7 best practices are, I think they're super basic on some level. Like we all know this, and this is true, I guess, of so many things in life, that we need to be reminded of the basics. And this is certainly that. Mission, vision, values, number 1, having a 3 to 5 year plan, or maybe a longer plan. Number 3 is having shorter term goals that help you get to that longer term plan. Number 4, having key performance indicators that help track along the way, having the right people in the right seats. Number 6 is regular meeting and checking in. And then number 7 is a scorecard. It's basically putting all of this stuff on paper so that we can track with our eyes how we're doing. These things are obviously super simple, but lead to success in business, certainly, but in also other areas of life if we so choose. So I hope this is helpful. If you want anything else from me, feel free to reach out to me, jordan@elitebsc.com. I'm happy to answer any questions, and maybe we'll dive into some more of these in greater detail, maybe in another podcast. So listen, I hope that you're finding success in your business, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to elitebsc.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at elitebsc.com/mastermind.